It's 2026 and we are still living the dream. Welcome to the show. My name is Rishi Barran with the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, and we like to celebrate our graduates who've gone on to do really good things in this industry. And I don't know if anybody's done as much as the guest that we have today. Perfect way to start the new year, episode 53. And we call this the Alton Lister episode, a nod to former Golden State Warriors center, who Randy is a big fan of that team. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I made it episode 53 for personal reasons because my boy Sean Kemp dunked on him unlike anyone's ever been dunked on. So it's a great way to start the episode for both of us. I am joined by Randy Silver. He's out in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's a sports MMJ, social content creator, and podcaster for NTV, not MTV, NTV News in Lincoln. I told him it might be hard to fit all that on a lower third, but we'll do the best we can. Randy, how's life out in the Cornhusker State?
It's good. And whenever I create captions on TikTok, they always put MTV and not NTV. So I have to make sure to fix it. So I appreciate that. It's going good. I'm so happy to be here. This is also my birth month. So it's a very great time for me to be able to go back, speak about my experience at the Dan Patrick School and what I've done since.
Yeah, Randy's one of our guests who he made it known he wanted to be on this one day, and I knew that day would come sooner than later. And he's earned the opportunity to, we talk about like Philip Rivers coming back to play football and have to wait a certain amount of time. I'm like, yeah, Randy, let's get him on now. Great way to start the new year, Randy. We're gonna go over what's just been an incredible journey of your life and your career to this point. But where did the dream of becoming a sports broadcaster start for you?
Probably in the womb, to be honest with you. I've always loved sports, whether it was watching, playing as a kid, and the fact that sports is something, take out politics, take out geography, you can just watch a game and root for a team, and you just get to enjoy it. And I've always been the guy who played sports in school, played sports out of school, played sports video games. So for me, I didn't start in sports in my career, but I'm so happy I finally found my way into it.
What was the level of sports in your life growing up in Southern California? You mentioned you've always loved it, but what really got you into it and loving, partaking of the sports world, whether it be watching games or attending them or just reading about them?
Yeah, so I grew up in Orange County. I go to Angel games with my dad and my family all the time. He's from New York, was a big Yankee guy, so we always make sure to go to those games. We went to Red Sox games. He had a couple friends who played Major League Baseball, so I kind of grew up around baseball. Fair enough. I wasn't that good at it. Yeah, but I really enjoyed watching sport. Then I started playing basketball at the YMCA. I played high school lacrosse. I played high school football. I played college lacrosse. So I've always just been involved around sports, and all my friends played sports. Again, video games, played Madden, played FIFA. My brothers played soccer. So we've always been the sports family. On summers, we weren't going to foreign countries. The summer trips were like, hey, we have a tournament in Seattle, have to go to a soccer tournament or things like that.
You mentioned the travels with family. How did your family influence the life path you've been on?
They've been incredibly supportive. My dad played college baseball too a little bit, and he always wanted us to play in sports. He was always the dad who would take you to the park on the Saturday, play catch with you in the backyard, have a t-ball, do some wiffle ball. He bought us basketball hoop for the front driveway. My mom, I hate to use the term like soccer mom, but in terms like she was great. She was at every game. She made a point to be able to drive us there, support us, orange peels, everything. So anything that we've done, say it's sports or outside of sports, my parents have just been incredibly supportive in pushing our endeavors, whatever that may be.
Love having a lacrosse player on here. I played lacrosse. I have a great love for the game. What lessons did it teach you playing the fastest game on 2 feet?
I think honestly, if I would have started playing lacrosse when I was like 5 or 6, I didn't start until my senior year when I was done with football. I probably would have gone D1 for it. I put at UC Santa Cruz, Banana Slugs. Let's go. But for me, I'm 5'8", 160. I'm pretty athletic. I'm not the biggest guy, so football was a bit tough. I'm not the fastest guy, so obviously basketball is probably out of it. Baseball wasn't the best, but lacrosse was the perfect mix of like the effort you put in is the effort you get out. You can't just use your left hand and right hand just picking up a stick. You have to practice. That means you have to go to wall ball. How many hours are you putting in by yourself that makes you better? picking up a ground ball, who's the toughest, who's going to outwork anyone. So I think all the intangibles that you get in sports and maybe your God-given birth that you don't have or you do have, lacrosse kind of, if you put the work in, you can be successful.
Well, while you were a high school lacrosse player, you were at Northwood High School and learning a lot of different things. But how was that version of Randy Silver similar and different than the one that's talking to me today?
That Randy didn't have confidence in himself. He knew that he had the work ethic and drive to be successful. However, based off of his height, his size, people in his life saying, you're never going to make it, he didn't believe in what he could believe. And it took me about, I would say, 8 years of my 20s to really build myself up and to have the confidence of like, hey, you know what? You don't have to be a former pro to be working in sports. You don't have to be a former college athlete to be working in sports. If you have the knowledge, you have the work ethic, and you build your reputation, there's going to be an audience for you and there's going to be a path for you to be successful. And it took me a lot of self-confidence to get there. And finally, when I did, that's when I made the leap of faith to join Full Sail.
Well, you went to UC Santa Cruz, as you mentioned. You were playing sports, but your studies were a little bit different. You were dual major, that is, environmental sciences, economics.
Correct.
How much different was that educational experience than the one you had with us later?
The first month I was at Full Sail, my girlfriend at the time, we're no longer together. I told her like I've never been so engaged with school. I love what I'm learning. I love what I'm doing. The 4 hour class like doesn't feel monogamous, doesn't feel as boring. Getting the opportunity to be in the studio and work behind the camera and to see what students were doing further on the program that I get a chance to get to was something that I was like so engaged with and putting the hours in. When I was learning OChem or learning biochem mechanics or learning geometry. I was just, you fall asleep in class, you're bored. It was not my thing. But UC Santa Cruz is not a big sports school. I played lacrosse there, but there wasn't, tailgating or the football team, the big basketball team. So it really was focused on school and then the friendships and the outside activities, which was really fun. But what I was learning was my passion getting to Full Sail and getting to do the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, that was my passion. And for 22 months, 18 months, however long the classes were, I never felt bored once in the class.
Why did you initially pick the dual degree program that you did when you were with UC Santa Cruz?
So I really wanted to get into sports coming out of high school, but my teachers were very against it. The kind of stuff you always hear, the tropes. There's no money. It's very competitive. Are you sure you want to go that route? Or, you're not the biggest athlete, like probably not for you. So I got pushed more into like business or green energy. And I had a teacher, his name was Mr. Brown at Northwood. Shout out. Hopefully you and your family are doing well. And he was super into green energy. So it kind of got me into it. But as I was going through it, it was fun and I enjoyed it and I understand what the environment can need from green energy, but it just wasn't my passion. So that kind of takes you to where in my 20s, I was working corporate jobs. I had a really good 9 to 5 work-life balance, but there's a point to every day when you're just doing the same thing and you don't feel like you're getting the reward out of it, where you have to make the change for yourself. And I wasn't willing to sit and do the same monogamous job for 30 years and be like, hey, I'm just living for the PTO. I'm just living for the weekends. Oh, we get a 3 day weekend here. Let's go. Like I needed more in my life. And that's where I finally made the change.
Well, you were successful at your jobs too, right?
I
In the
was.
tech business, and you found a lot of success early on as a sales manager, right? So,
Correct.
how did those skills that made you good at that ultimately help you with transitioning into sportscast?
I think the fact in sales, you have to be a go-getter. No one's going to come to you and say, hey, here's $50,000. Take my money. You have to go make it happen. One example I talk about is when I first started, I was a sales rep doing lead generation. Basically means I had to make cold calls and cold emails every day. So I was living in San Francisco, waking up at 4:30 a.m., driving my Vespa, which was really cool, 5 miles across the city to be in the office by 5:30 to start making cold calls at 6 a.m. because I was in San Francisco covering the East Coast. My territory was Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, Mississippi, Alabama. So I have to work their hours. Cool thing is I'm done at 3, but by like 8 p.m. at night, I'm exhausted because my day's over. And I did that for 2 years. And I'm making 100 plus cold calls a day, 2,000 plus emails a day. And the whole time I'm doing that, like I'm doing a good job. I have a second computer next to me. I'm watching Champions League on my computer. I'm watching Sports Center on my computer. I'm watching XYZ highlights on my computer. So that kind of thing where like, yes, I was successful at my job, but all through my 20s, as I moved up in the corporate ladder, I continued to have sports on in the background while I'm doing the job. And the inner voice in my head is like, this is what you're doing while you're working. Like, why do you not just do that where you can get paid to watch sports and talk about it for a living? And that kind of just continued to grow and grow in my head.
That's Randy Silver with NTV is living his dream as a sports MMJ, social media creator, content creator, manager, whatever it is. You're doing a lot with it. We're going to get deeper into the transition in a minute, but I do want to touch on, where you were and how you got there to some degree within the industry when you were working in business. What type of satisfaction did you have from being able to rise and find yourself in a position where you're making a lot of money and you're someone who the companies you worked for relied upon?
I saw sales like being an athlete. There's a leaderboard. You're either the top sales rep, you're second, third, and you're last. And if you're last, you don't want to be last because your job's probably on the cooking board. So I really enjoyed the thrill of the competition. And I always tried to be a team leader, team captain. I wasn't made a team captain, but I always looked at myself as how can I enable success? So as I become a sales manager and I got to lead other people, I use the same things you'd use in sports as a communicator. How do you enable success? How do you help take some of the stress off of other people? How can you step in and show them that you're the team leader, team captain? And that allowed me to fill some of the gaps maybe I was feeling in the rut of the day to day, being in Salesforce, having to be in team one-on-ones. And I enjoyed the people I work with, and that kind of fulfilled it. But at some point, you're just not going to hit every satisfaction you want. And then you have to be like, am I happy here? Is the money worth it? Is it not worth it? And it came to a point where, you get to travel, you get to have these life experiences, but is a monogamy of 300 days a year worth it?
Well, one thing we're going to do a little bit differently in this episode is we're going to incorporate some course director questions, questions from people throughout our program that are teaching and share them with you today. And one of the questions lays right into that. I'm not going to share which instructor asked these questions to protect their anonymity, but one of the questions, the first one, I'll read it word for word here. At some point, you realized you weren't enjoying the job enough to do it for the rest of your life. You pivoted to go after your real dream. What conversation did you have with yourself to make that decision, Randy?
So I originally found out about the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting in 2018. I was listening to the Scott Van Pelt podcast, and there was an ad about the school starting. And I'll be honest, like I thought it was fake. Like I was like, this is too good to be true. There wasn't much about it because it was brand new. So it was something in the back of my head. I was like, I just always knew I didn't want to go back to school for a 4-year degree. During COVID is when I relooked at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting again. And I spoke to a couple alumni, and they talked amazing things about the opportunities the school provide and what it was. But during COVID times, everything shut down. It just wasn't the right time to potentially start a new school, uproot your life. You can't really move anyway, so it wasn't the right opportunity. And that's where once things started opening up after COVID, I came back to it. I did the same process speaking to school officials. I actually think Rishi, you and I spoke on the phone. I spoke to Gus. I spoke to other alumni, and just hearing the opportunities, getting to visit the school through BTS and see it live through the videos, speak to people there. I just knew like deep down in my soul, this was the path I needed to take for my career. And again, some people can make a decision in the moment and go for it. That decision took me 5 years from the first time I heard the school to when I made the switch of quitting my corporate job to then say I'm going to the school. It took a lot of soul searching to like, I can do this. This is something you want. How will my family react? How will my at the time how will my ex-girlfriend react? Is she okay with moving from California to Florida? How would my friends react? Because I'm the linchpin of everybody in California. So I really try to focus on not just me and everything else. It took a lot of time to get there.
And I imagine giving up a high paying job is not an easy thing, too. What made that worth it for you?
Knowing I could pay for school without paying loans. I know everybody's financial situation is different, but I really did not want to take out loans and go down that path. So I wanted to make sure financially I could afford the school. So that meant as I was kind of getting more comfortable with the idea, I was taking less trips. Hey, do I need to go buy XYZ? Do I need that thing on Amazon? So I tried to make sure I could save enough money pay myself through school. And I did. And that's a very humble thing to say. I know not everybody has those opportunities. So that was a big thing for me, as well as my parents, to be able to feel comfortable. Again, I'm 28 at that time, so it's not like they can control my life, but their opinion matters. So financially, that was big, but also it's just again the job degrading how I was feeling. Like I really was dreading waking up Monday morning to have to start the job. I love the people I work with, but I wasn't liking what I had to do on a daily basis. Since I've been able to go to full sale, and moreover now that I'm in Nebraska, not I've actually said this to my current girlfriend yesterday. Not one day have I woken up and said, I hate that I get to wake up and do what I have to do. And that's why I wanted to make the switch.
Sounds like it was worth it just for that alone. And you mentioned
Yeah.
you did reach out to me. You reached out to a lot of people. I say you were one of the more proactive people we've had prior to attending school, which helped you with your research and understanding it was right for you.
My
Another,
sales,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, use my sales skills. Got to do the prospecting to make sure it's right.
It's all about connecting, whether it's something broadcasting related or not. You use those skills to improve your chances in life. But what do you think is the key to networking effectively in the year 2026?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think there's so many different avenues for connecting and there's so much information out there. It's how do you understand the information that is putting out there and how is it relevant to you? So that's where it's like, for example, Reddit. I went to Reddit and Reddit's a very, let's just say, interesting place. And there were a lot of people with comments saying negative things about Full Sail and Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, excuse me. And I was like, okay, if someone on Reddit is going on there, usually it means they're either incredibly happy or incredibly disappointed. There's really no middle ground when you look at social media comments. So am I going to believe somebody on Reddit or am I going to go to an alumni who's finished the school versus someone on Reddit who did 2 weeks of the program, 2 months of the program and dropped out? Am I going to speak to you who lives it every day or other school officials who live it every day? And yes, fair enough, you may have a bias because you're living it, you want people to come, but at the same time, you're going to give me the honest opinion about the goods and the bad. And that's exactly what you and Gus did. And speaking to other alumni about the high and the low and what did it. And then I think really going to BTS was very important and seeing it because I was like, well, I'm 28. I have a good life in California. Do I want to take this online or do I want to take this in person? Person's more money. Obviously, you have to move across the country. There's a lot more if and or but bits. It's gonna be if and or buts with making it happen. But seeing the studio, seeing the opportunities of learning from teachers in person, seeing the opportunities to be in the studio every day, and what opportunities are generated from being in Orlando because there's just a lot of sports happening around the metro area helped me feel for me in my personal situation. I needed to get myself in the studio. Could I be where I'm at today if I did this online? I know there's been many successful online students who are doing great things who are alumni. For me personally, based off of where I was in life, I needed to get that enhanced experience.
How about now, though, 2026, you now work your job. What does it mean to network successfully as whether it's a professional mindset or a student wanting to become a professional?
I just try to meet as many people as possible. And I really try to make sure that people understand that like I'm just a very nice, genuine person. I go to mental therapist. I think mental health is incredibly important. So I was telling him this the other day is like I feel like there's a lot of fake nice people in the industry. And this is probably a big debate where it's like people will treat me one way who are my peers, but when they're speaking to school officials or
Mm,
athletes, I see them treat them a different way.
mm.
I'm like, okay, so you're doing something for your betterment. And people recognize that I treat you, whether you're, lack of a better term, the janitor or you're the president of Nebraska, I'm going to treat you the same exact way because that's what you deserve. So when I network with people, people recognize I'm just a really nice, genuine person, and I don't treat anybody any different. Because of that, I've been getting other opportunities. I've been in terms of like maybe not networking, but growing a following. People say they really enjoy the work I do because they can recognize when I'm on camera, It's genuine. I'm not putting up a wall. I'm not faking anything. And they're getting the news unbiased, whether it's good or bad, because I'm just here to try to get the fans and the teams connected as close as possible.
That's great. And a lot of good advice there for anyone watching this that you can learn from. And I'll take that one more step, Randy. What tips do you have for students as they try to maintain meaningful connections, both in the sports industry and really beyond that? What tips can they take to really get started?
I think the first one's LinkedIn. Again, you can just add somebody on LinkedIn and see what they're doing. That's fine. But if you can stay connected in LinkedIn and see their updates and someone gets a new job, just leave a comment. Hey, congratulations, new job, proud of you. Or like someone posts something like that type of stuff just helps your name stay around. And then obviously through the algorithm, if you're posting on their wall, they probably see stuff that you post. So like that can help you that way. And I think in general, as well as just like on a Google sheet, I have a list of every contact I've made. So this isn't crazy news, but like at Full Sail, you get some awesome opportunities. So when I graduated Full Sail, I know you talked about post school. I sent my resume in my double reel to every person I met who gave me their phone number, gave me an email, or maybe they didn't, but I had their name down. And so I found their email, I found their Twitter. I was like, hey, we spoke XYZ months ago. I'm about to graduate. I love some feedback. And maybe I got five different feedbacks on the same piece of work. So I have to figure out what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah,
But
sure.
everyone's gonna have their own opinion. And that's where the people maybe like I think Gus always says, like, are you gonna listen to the Twitter troll? Or are you gonna listen to your instructors who've been in the industry for 20 years? So that's kind of where sometimes you just put it together. And maybe all of them are wrong. Who knows? And you just have to do what's best for yourself.
Yeah, and ultimately it comes back to what you think is right and taking that advice moving forward by having an open mind to learn it. And I think you have the perfect strategy. Cast a wide net, get as many people in your court as you can, and that really makes getting a job a lot easier down the stretch. So you came to a, go
Can
ahead.
I say one more thing? I
Yeah.
apologize. And like I think just it just popped up here is like dealing with social media is really important because um Nebraska basketball right now, knock on wood, they're undefeated. They're 16-0. And there's five other teams undefeated. I said Maryland instead of Miami, Ohio. I know you're a Maryland guy. So I got ridiculed in social media. People like, this guy doesn't know sports. Well, I'm going to follow him. He doesn't know the logo. I said the wrong thing. So I posted a comment. Hey, I said the wrong thing. I apologize. We all make mistakes. And I promise you next time I'll try to do better and I'll make that mistake. Now, personally, like if I'm not as confident in who I am and where I'm at, that could destroy you. And you're like, maybe you're scared and or you don't want to post anything, or like I lose some followers. But I recognize like I can just make the next video and everyone's gonna move on. It's not gonna change. Or like those Twitter trolls who are like, got ya, you're wrong, you don't deserve your role, like you should get fired. What job are you doing? I have this job for a reason and I'm gonna continue to do it. And I'm only gonna listen to the people who matter, who excuse me, that's the wrong way to say it. I'm listening to people who have the education, who have helped me get to where I'm at. And those are the instructors who are gonna help me continue to move forward versus put me down.
I think there's a great value to being accountable too. You owned up to it. Okay, I made a mistake. And even if you lost a little credibility, Randy, you rebuild your credibility moving forward with the work you have. And sometimes making a mistake is really actually helpful because then you know, hey, I know I'm not going to touch that ground again. So it's
Yeah.
if you take something out of it, it can actually be beneficial to you in the long run.
Yep.
And you came to us. You were someone who had some life experience, who had some experience in the working world, but you wanted to be a sportscaster. What was your goal when you started with us?
Very simple. They get paid to speak sports. Whatever capacity that was what I wanted to do. Now, in terms of like behind the camera, like being a producer, all that, I really didn't know all these extra roles. I just always knew if I could get paid to speak sports or if I could get paid to watch sports, that's where I would be internally happy. And that's what's happened.
That's Randy Silver. He is one of the few to don the coveted Mark Mativier jacket, which is given at the end of the program. We'll talk more about that later and Randy's role in expanding that. One of your instructors said you were one of the hardest workers that this person has had when it comes to vocal presentation. This person credits this to your maturity and intricate preparation. What does it take to take the steps forward with your growth? So in short, how do you get to the point where you're able to take these steps forward?
A lot of work. You have to be okay with sacrifices. On a Friday night, are you willing to go to the bar with your friends and hang out, and then maybe you get drunk if you at the age of drinking, and then your Saturday's ruined because you're hungover, or you get to stay on Friday night and put the work in, and then you're feeling better Saturday morning where you're able to continue to put the work in. On a typical weeknight, are you going to stay home and watch Raw, which you can watch on social media, or are you going to go cover a Rollins basketball game and do play-by-play for volleyball, even though you don't know anything about volleyball, because getting those reps of having to speak on a mic and speak about something you don't know will continue to allow you to grow your skills or work on something you learned in class. So every opportunity that the school provided, I said yes. And it was a detriment in some of my personal life. And that's stuff that I've had to grieve over and deal with because of it. But that's the sacrifices I had to make to get to where I want to go.
You did a lot with us, Randy. It would take us forever. It would take us 2 hours to go over everything that you did. But how were you able to handle all the million things that you did while you were with us and still do a good job at each of them?
Team no sleep. It was hard. Again, the sacrifices is just like a key buzzword. At one point, I had 4 internships on top of school, on top of commentary. Excuse me, the play-by-play stuff with Rollins. So, like a typical day in school for me, you wake up at 8, class 9 to 1, came home, did the Make Plays Media internship where you're a production assistant. That was from like say 1:32 to 5. Do a play-by-play board from 5 to 7, get the Rollins at 7:30, call basketball game 8 to 10. Typical day. Where's there time to eat? You find time to eat. Where's there time to get a workout in? You try to make time. Maybe go for a quick run. So one of the things I've had to learn is balance, and I've really worked on having a better balance out of school. But again, I just knew from my age where I was coming from, I needed as many opportunities and many at bats and whatever it could be to build that resume and build experience because I don't have time at when I started school at 28, graduated, sorry, started school at 29, graduated 31. I didn't have time to, was it 31? No, 32, excuse me, 32. I didn't have time to wait to be able to find my way through the industry. I needed to be able to get the job and move up.
Well, for a while when you started with us, you were like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to do everything and really be at the end before you had really learned all the material. And I'm trying to do everything, which there's a great value to that and getting the experience. But on the other hand, you really needed to learn the lessons to apply them and focus those lessons on your extracurriculars and all the stuff you're doing for YouTube and everything else. What did you learn about pacing yourself in the program and kind of slowing down a little bit to get the lessons first before you head into everything?
I think it probably would have helped my sanity a bit, to be honest, and help have a better balance. Just this opportunity to be at Full Sail was something I've waited for my whole life. And I was so eager, as you mentioned, and I just wanted to get and do it and do it and do it. And I think it was to a detriment to a degree that the quality maybe wasn't where it could have been or should have been because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was just doing stuff and you kind of learn on the fly, where maybe if I had slow rolled it, um, the less quantity, more quality. And for example, PNP4, you learn how to create a package. And I was trying to do all that stuff beforehand. If you remember, I sent you, Rishi, a package about me on Brightline.
Mm-hmm.
Brightline, high-speed train. It goes from Orlando to Miami. I was going to Miami for an opportunity. And I created a package on the train. So again, no one told me to do this, but I was like, hey, this is a cool thing. Let me do it. Let me try to get these 4 hours I'm sitting on the train, whatever it is. Let me try to get better.
Yeah.
And I send you it, and you're like, hey, there's some good stuff here, but there's a lot of stuff here. You'll just learn why this is right or not right throughout the program. So, let's look back at this and when you're done, and maybe you redo it and you'll see how much is different. And as I was going through the program, I'm like, this is what he meant. This is what I could have done better. This is what is different. But like, again, putting myself out there to just do the work, and you guys recognize that. But also, now that I can go back at it, there's stuff there that maybe I probably shouldn't have done yet just because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, there's something to be said about finding that balance, which is hard to find, of doing as much as you possibly can while also knowing, hey, I need to kind of master some skills to get to the level where I can do this well, right? So, like, for example, like it'd be like throwing a 17-year-old rookie up to the major leagues to pitch a playoff game, right? Generally, those guys aren't going to be ready
Right.
for that, right? So that's kind of, I think, the equivalent. But much props to you for having the courage to go after those opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's
And
awesome.
and then getting that feedback, what do I do with that feedback? I have a notepad. Maybe I can share this with Rishi. I have a notepad of everything the feedback I got, whether it was a Zoom meeting with Dan when we do the video review. Dan came in class. Dan came onto the studio and he was talking. What you guys gave me, I have just copious notes. So if I ever had any questions or still have questions, I can go back to those and say, boom, there's my answer.
Well, one thing that you got to do of the many is you got to shoot some UCF sports and kind of a prelude to where you are now covering a big time Division I program. What did you learn from going out and shooting the games and shooting the press conferences and asking the questions and editing it all together that now applies to your current job?
Deadlines. Obviously, like doing it just for ourselves, there's no deadline, but I gave myself an artificial deadline as if I was a TV reporter with football games at 4, ends at 8. You have to be live on TV at 11. I would try to do mimic that so that way when I come here, I've never missed a deadline at Nebraska. I've never been close to missing a deadline because I'm just very prepared for what I put myself through school with that. But also just sitting there and getting experience of like, okay, here's a press conference. We have a class where you learn about asking quality questions. And I'm sitting at UCF and I'm like, that's not a question, that's a statement. Jacksonville Jaguar reporter right now says something nice. Now the whole
Hmm.
debate, you say the press conference or not. We don't have to get into it. But like stuff like that, you learn in school or you hear in school and then seeing it in real life. Like, hey, you take a class about this is how you shoot a football game. Now I'm watching I'm there to shoot the football game, but I'm also watching my peers there, these people who have been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years. Where are they standing? Where are they shooting? What's the angle they're using? Hey, why are they editing in this versus that? So I'm really trying to be aware of not just what's happening while I'm there, my full surroundings. And I still do that today where I'm looking at people who've been in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years. Why are they standing up top right now versus why I'm down below? Ah, that's why. Next time I need to be up there, I'll get the better shot. So I'm always trying to be aware of what's happening.
You learned a lot by doing, which is really the point of our program under the supervision you have with our instructions, but you also did it yourself. We talked about that earlier, your YouTube channel and all the social media content you created. Not only were you getting experience with doing all that, Randy, but you were also giving yourself an avenue to promote your work. What did you take from your early experiences sharing your content with the masses?
I had good quality content, but I had no following. So it was very hard because I'm like, this is cool. Like if I saw Bleach Report put this out there, like it's the same thing. And like people would be like, oh yeah, like this deserves higher view count than what it's getting. So I knew what I was doing was right, but it's hard mentally to not see the views or the likes or the comments or the subscribes. And you're like, what the heck? And now I'm doing the same thing in Nebraska. Fair enough, by having NTV, I have a dedicated brand and following. I'm seeing the view count, I'm seeing the followers, I'm seeing the growth of it, I'm seeing the success of it, and it's really gratifying. So it's hard to, in the moment, know you're doing something right, but not see the results, but continue to do what you're doing and know that like you're just building yourself up to get to where you want to go, and the results will eventually come if the quality is there.
Well, while you were at school, you got a lot of professional experience right out the gate. You mentioned Make Plays Media with Foul Territory and the other work that they do, the Charlie Weiss podcast, your involvement with that, working with Scott Hansen from
Yes, sir.
Red Zone Channel for the YouTube fantasy show he did.
We still
Uh,
text, which is awesome. He'll be a mentor for life, and that doesn't happen if I'm not at school.
so, what did it getting all those professional opportunities and jumping at them when you were ready do to make sure that you had the proper mindset once you entered the workforce full time yourself?
Um, One, it's a resume builder. Like if someone's looking at me or another student or someone else and they see Scott Hansen, NFL Red Zone, they see Charlie Weiss podcast, if they see Dan Patrick School Sportscasting, like stuff like that, it helps set me apart. And then hopefully I've done a good job at representing who I am. And if they make that call as a reference, they'll say, you better hire Randy. If not, you're going to make a very bad decision. So getting them to one, be on my resume is important, but that's because of the work I put in and the effort I put in. So I put myself again, not just as a student. I really worked 3 or 4 jobs and turned internships in school I did, and continuing that now professionally. We were talking about this before we started. I'll send stuff back to the Full Sail instructors and say like, hey, for example, I got to interview Larry the Cable Guy. He's not a sports guy, but he was the grand marshal of the rodeo I covered. Never covered the rodeo before. Super fun. So like one, learning what is a rodeo? How's it how's it work? Why are there different types of things in the rodeo? It's just not bull riding, which I had no idea. How's it scored so I can accurately represent it to a brand who knows the rodeo because they live here, and I can't look them on camera. So you got to do your homework. But then after, like I got to interview Larry, the cable guy, as the Grand Marshal. That's a completely different conversation. How do you have a comedian who's a big Nebraska fan talk about sports, talk about being the rodeo, represent Nebraska, write the question. So I went back to my notes, how do I do it correctly? And then I send it back to the instructor. Shout out Mike Tuck, who taught that class. Hey, how did I do here? Can you give me some feedback, what I can do better? Anything I can improve on? Anything you liked? Debbie Taylor, I've done the same type of stuff too. Even you mentioned Scott Hansen. I'm like, hey, Scott, can you take a look at this and let me know your thoughts? It's a football type of thing. Uh, so like Scott hit me up when Cincinnati played Nebraska at Arrowhead to start the season. I had a lot of people be like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." Excuse me. And Scott Hansen hit me up and he goes, "Hey, Randy, you've earned this. This has been your dream. Enjoy it." You're like
Wow.
that type of thing is just amazing because it shows that they recognize the work I put in. Now I'm starting to reap the benefits, and they're going to continue to help me not just year one, year two, as I continue on to job 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be.
I'm imagining that helps the self-confidence so much too, to
I started crying.
and tears of joy and tears of hard work paying off. That's what Randy Silver is all about. He works at NTV in Lincoln, Nebraska. In addition to the professional connections you made and the networking we talked about, you made some lifelong friends I know at Full Sail. What did that mean to you?
It was everything, especially again, moving from California to Florida at the time with my girlfriend who I had no longer together. It can be lonely out there by yourself, but going through school, shout out Denver K, him and I were in every class together. Uh, you have the same shared experiences, excuse me. You're working on projects together in class. You're working homework together. Him and I were volunteering with the WWE NXT. We were doing stuff outside of class together. So being able to have those same experiences and using that to continue to grow. Denver and I still text all the time. We chat on the phone. It means the world to be able to have those support systems who you're going through the same stuff on a daily basis, who you can work through it together.
Well, you knew when you came to Full Sail, you had a dream, and it sounded like you were all in on going after it, but you knew there was a good chance you'd be moving to get an on-air job, which was your goal. We'll get into deeper into that decision in just a minute, but hey, it could be anywhere. I know that you had hoped to come back to California. You referenced the relationship you were in. I know she was hoping it would be California, but ultimately, toward the end of your time with us, that relationship ended after a conversation with her kind of about what the future was unfolding or what was unfolding. And I know that was really difficult, but how did you navigate going through all that, being so close to the end of the program, knowing that the future was soon upon you?
It sucked. Yeah, I may tear up a bit, so I apologize. But like you can tell this who I am. We broke up 3 months before school was over. So, in that 3 months is very critical for you at Full Sail because that's when you're pretty much in the studio every day building up your demo reel. Now, fair enough, I've done a lot outside of school, so I had stuff. But how do you go on camera when you're dealing with grief and you have to try to show you're happy and talk sports? It was and handle the grief by yourself now. It was difficult. It was very, very difficult. Rishi was a big support system. He gave me some resources. I started going to a mental health therapist, which again I think is really important to talk it out. And my family and friends back in California, big support. My dad flew out to Florida to be with me for a couple of days to just show his support, which was amazing. But it wasn't easy. But I had to remember at the end of the day, what was my goal? My goal is to speak sports on television, and using that as my North Star. There were a lot of lonely, sad days, a lot of days of crying, but I get to I get to speak sports for a living. that was what I wanted to do. And as you continue to move forward with grief, focus on where you're at. And that's where I really tried to keep my head. And
How
it
did
wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie.
how did you make that decision ultimately, knowing all that?
And sorry, what do you mean by what decision?
How the decision that, hey, I'm gonna have to move, this is gonna to go after my dream, I have to do this.
Um, she communicated that she wanted to be in Sacramento now and forever. And that's where she was from. She moved from Sacramento to Florida to be with me, which was amazing. And I give her all the credit for trying and doing it. But when she said that she would be Sacramento now and forever, that's a limited market for me to be. And like, does that mean like potentially I get a job in like, I don't know, like Portland, and then we're like doing long distance? Like, I just couldn't. We agreed that in terms of what our life goals were, they just weren't matched anymore. It was best for us to focus on what we wanted for our lives and end it before it got bad.
Yeah, and I remember you saying like she was very supportive of, hey, this is important to you, and it's great to, it's a difficult situation, but to know you both supported each other and care about each other, I mean that means a lot. And you had another opportunity or another decision to make when an opportunity potentially with ESPN came up, and you could have essentially gone there and worked in production. But I remember we had a conversation about that, and you relayed you wanted to chase your on-air dreams. How did you decide that, hey, I'm going to finish school and get my degree in person and then go for the on-air stuff and instead of taking what might have been more of a sure thing?
Yeah. So the ESPN job told me I could be PA and then you could kind of work your way up. However, the recruiter made it very clear that this is never going to be an on-camera opportunity. They don't want this role is to train you to be behind the scenes for now and forever. If you want to be on camera, don't take this role. So I had to do a lot of soul searching, and that would have been the opportunity. It'd been great to be in Bristol. Obviously, everything that gets to be with being at the mothership and learning from them. Full Sail students are there, of course. But if I had gone through moving across the country, at the time, my girlfriend, her and I breaking up, uprooting my whole life, paying through school, am I gonna now sacrifice what my ultimate dream is because it wasn't right before I even got a chance to even test it out? I could always go behind the camera, but with everything I had been going through, I needed to give this a shot. Whether it would be in United States, whether it be in Europe, South America, you name it, whether it's a small town, big city, let's go be on camera. That's what you've always wanted. So why are you gonna limit yourself now if there's nothing tying you?
Well, you are a testament for going after the dreams, and we're almost to the second big question. But to be on air, delivery is a big part of it. And you shared with me earlier when I asked you about it that you had to take some speech classes throughout your time growing up. And I know the vocal training classes were helpful to you at Full Sail. How did having that training help you to be better and better presenter of yourself on air?
And it's still something I'm working on every day, just to make it known. So growing up, I had a speech impediment. I had an overbite and then crossbite. So I was in speech therapy from probably kindergarten to eighth grade. Probably should have taken it in high school as well, but that's a different story. And then I just noticed my enunciations aren't the best. Sometimes when I get super excited, I speed up my talking, I mumble. So taking the vocal classes at Full Sail with all the different teachers and outside of the actual classes again, getting a chance to do play-by-play with Rollins or getting a chance to do XYZ, using those principles you learn in class and then be able to use outside of class. This allowed me to continue to refine and focus. I've learned there's some words I probably can't say or I shouldn't say. I know Gus always says don't ever say shoulder surgery. It's a tough combination together. So stuff like that. And fair enough, like I definitely have heard myself misspeak on this conversation multiple times. But again, nobody's perfect. We're all human and people are going to be okay with it as long as the message can get out the way it needs to. Now, again, like if you're trying to say someone's name, first and last name, who's an athlete, you got to get that right. And there's been many times where, especially there's a lot of European players here with very tough names. I'm practicing those names for so long. I get it once, I go to the nickname. But so there's different tricks that we've learned through school you can get to. But at the end of the day, um, it takes a lot of practice. And when I do my stand-ups that aren't live, sometimes like it takes me 20 minutes, which I wish it didn't, but I try my best to be as perfect as I can, but sometimes you have to say, you know what? It's okay.
Well, you made it and you did as much as you could do. You graduated with the highest of honors from Full Sail. And one of those was the Mark Mativier jacket, a tradition that was kind of off the spur of the moment. Started when Mark Mativier, one of our graduates, literally took the jacket off his bat and gave it to KJ Doyle, one of our students at the time, who's gone on to do great things. And now it's been passed on by whoever received the jacket has to pass it down. You were one of the recipients, and you chose to make it a little bigger than it already was with some
Yeah.
patches on it. You want to take us through that?
Yeah, I wanted to put my own spin on it and recognize the people who have got it, and hopefully people after me who got it have continued to do the same thing. A suit jacket is awesome. Nothing against this. I wasn't trying to say like, oh, this is bad, but I wanted to jazz it up a bit. So that way, people really recognize how the award means so much and being honored by your fellow peer giving you the jacket for the effort and work you put in and being able to do the same for the next class below you, whoever it may be, is just a really gratifying thing.
Well, guess what? All the hard work, all the sacrifice, all of it, you put everything you had into it, and it seems like you're getting everything out of it. What's it like, Randy, after all that, to be living the dream right now?
Amazing. It's just so cool. I'm reaping the reward of all the hard work and benefit and sacrifices to go in. I don't need gratification from other people because I get it from myself and what I get to do. I wake up every day, like today when we're done, I'm going to cover Nebraska basketball hosting Oregon. Tomorrow I'll cover a softball press conference. Thursday I'll cover a football press conference. I'm just covering sports every day. Obviously, some varying levels. Maybe one day it's high school, one day it's college. I'm pro here. It'd be volleyball. We don't have an NFL team, basketball team, things like that. But I get to wake up every day and talk sports for a living. And that's always what I've ever wanted. It's just amazing.
Well, you got a daily grind too. When you're covering Nebraska athletics and everything else that you cover in the area, what is your strategy? I know every day is different, but for taking on the demands of a daily grind, covering so many different sports and so much going on each day that you go in.
Yeah, so we don't have professional teams here in Lincoln, but the Nebraska Cornhuskers are covered like a professional team. So if someone's like, "Have you ever covered the pro team?" Technically, no, but the way that we cover Nebraska Cornhuskers, yes. And the way that traditionally people maybe cover high school sports is how you would cover a college team in a pro market. So I'm at every press conference for all the Husker sports, whether it's football, volleyball, softball, baseball, wrestling is really big here. Both basketball teams. I'm out there shooting the games. I'm out editing. I'm getting my own interviews for high school sports. High school football Fridays, basketball, wrestling. The state championships here for high school are incredibly important, very big. In the summer, I mentioned rodeos, other events going on. Savannah Bananas are coming here in June, so that'll be super fun to cover inside the football stadium. So, one cool thing is sports happen more in the evening, so I get to sleep in. I'm not waking up at 7 o'clock and waking up like 8:39, which is nice. And just making sure, what do I need to do for today? How can I keep myself organized? Uh, there are a lot of nights where maybe I'm not going to bed till 2 because say basketball game's at 8, ends at 10, press conference isn't over till 10:30, 11. Then you get your stuff out on social as well, by the cool. Now maybe I could go to bed, but I know for myself and our brand and TV, we need to get some of those press conference clips out, some highlight clips out. So I'm sitting at home, I got my dog next to me. He's sleeping on my lap, which is very cute. And I'm editing some videos. Does anybody tell me I need to do that? No. But I just recognize that like that's the type of effort that needs to go in for us to be successful.
Well, over the last year, you've learned a lot on the job about how to ask good questions, right? So you learned in advanced interviewing, but now you're learning more in the job. How has it been with being around University of Nebraska athletes and coaches? How has that shaped the way you go about asking them questions now that you're more in the know?
So I'll give you a story. Within my first 3 weeks here in the summer, it's just kind of like review press conferences, this kind of stuff for media to get content. Volleyball coach Danny Busby Kelly, former NCAA champion as a player at Nebraska, assistant coach champion Nebraska, first year as a coach. Second day was Coach Hoiberg, Fred Hoiberg, Nebraska coach, former NBA coach and player. Third day, Matt Rule, of course, former NFL coach, big time college football coach. All three of them told a reporter, "That's a really good question. I didn't think of it like that." Who did they say that to? Me. That means I'm asking questions that putting them thinking outside the box or something they weren't prepared for or aware for. And when you're 3 weeks on the job and you're a new guy in the room, that gives me incredible credibility because it's the same reporters in the room every day. It shows them like I deserve to be there. It shows me that I deserve to be there, and it gives me confidence to ask those questions. And it goes back to learning. It's like I recognize like that's not a question. You asked a statement. This is a double-barreled question. Or if I do something wrong in the moment, like with Matt Rule, I asked him a double-barreled question and I said shoot under my breath and everybody heard it. So obviously it wasn't that quiet. And he's like, "Oh, why'd you say that?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, sir. Like, I don't want to interrupt the press conference." He's like, "No, like, why'd you say shoot?" And I said, "Well, in sportscasting school, we learned not to ask you two questions at the same time. I just asked you two questions at the same time, and it's not appropriate. We want to make it leaner so I can give you the better opportunity to answer the one question that is needed." And he looked at me, he goes, "You're going to be very successful one day." Like that analysis is not what a normal reporter does. And then he answered my questions. So like I'm just very cognizant of like what we need to ask, how we ask it, because of what we learned.
Boy, I know Mike Tuck's gonna like that one. That was really good. So, excellent answer on how it translates, and I'm glad you feel good going into those challenging situations when you're talking to very high profile people, and your training has guided you along the way. And one thing you also had experience with, which isn't necessarily the best experience, but you had to move from California to Orlando area without knowing too many people. Now you move from school to Nebraska with really out without any friends and family in the area. How have
Yeah.
you been able to successfully transition to do that?
Yeah, I knew nobody in Nebraska before I moved here. Besides the news director who obviously helped me get hired. It was incredibly tough. It's very scary to move into a new city, a new state, a new industry, a new job, knowing nobody and anything. You just have to rely on yourself. And my move from Orlando to Nebraska wasn't easy as well. My movers never showed up at my apartment in Nebraska, so I had to move out of my three-story. I was on the third-story apartment, no elevator, no movers. They never came. I had to move everything by myself. So I was like, great, this is a terrible way to start whatever this new adventure is. And this is really on you to build the community. So I really picked up pickleball to try to meet some people in the community. Fair enough, like covering sports, we have a pretty cool job. Getting to be around sports every day, meeting my girlfriend out here who's amazing. Kaylee, shout out. You're awesome. I love you. I appreciate like what she's providing me and the support that she gives me. And she's in the industry as well. She works in the soccer side. So she gets the hours and everything that I'm dealing with, which is an amazing support to be able to have. And, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be stressful. There's going to be anxiety and loneliness, but I always take it back to what's my North Star? And that's why I'm here.
You've talked about the importance of mental health a couple of times during our show today here on the Livin The Dream video podcast, but that kind of ties into my next question. What are some of the challenges in maintaining a healthy lifestyle and mindset, really, as a professional sportscaster?
Well, I don't drink or smoke. So I've been sober for 2.5 years. I was never crazy at it, but when I moved from California to Florida, I just quit everything that would be a bad vice in my life. So that way I could focus on this dream. I think not having that has been incredibly successful in just making sure I stay mentally healthy. I work out 5, 6 times a week has been, I've always done that, just staying physically healthy. Getting a dog out here, Covey, is amazing. He's such a great best friend and partner. I always know whether I'm coming home alone, whether Kaylee's here, whether I have a good day or a bad day. When I come home, Kobe's gonna give me a big sloppy kiss on the face and want to walk and just sleep on my lap. It makes it very gratifying. And I think the last part would just be using the resources around you. I do a lot of reading. Mel Robbins, her books have been incredibly helpful. Social media accounts or influencers who talk about mental health. Rishi, or using your mentors to talk about it, and your family and friends. So it's not one solution, but putting it all together helps. And I go to a mental health therapist once a month. I don't maybe I don't need it anymore per se, but I just like having a safe space to just talk about what's happening in life, the highs and the lows, and getting an unbiased opinion about what's working and not working, or maybe some tweaks I can do that will help me.
And you got to kind of carve all that out for yourself because it's not easy with the schedule you have, having to go shoot interviews, do the shows, everything else that you are taking care of. You've got to make that happen. They're not going to, your news director's not going to walk you out to the gym 4 to 5 days a week, and he's not going to schedule, in most cases, mental health opportunities. So I applaud you for all your work to do that. And one of your responsibilities that I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into is social media. You kind of went there with a plan to make their social media great. What has that experience been like for you?
Amazing. Local news definitely isn't the most watched as it was, say, 20, 30 years ago, with just many more avenues to get your news from social media or other channels. So I knew if I wanted to grow NTV News brand or my brand, I needed to use socials. So when I'm going to a basketball game, excuse me, before the game starts, I'm doing like a 1 minute video talking about the game on the court so people see me there. What's the record? Who are the key players of the game? What does this game mean? Before the game, posting a video. Like this isn't news, but it's like the players running out on the court. Players are ready. Uh, for example, UCLA, the women's team was here and they have a 6'7" player, Lauren Betts, defensive player of the year last year, future WNBA superstar. Just posting something about her and saying Betts is ready to dominate. Is that news? No. But that type of content gets clicks. And that allows then for people to see NTV news. So when I'm posting a post-game report or something, maybe it's not even sports related, it's our news division who's posting something. People are seeing it because they're interacting with our social media, and that's feeding them more stuff from NTV news. So I'm really looking at the game from all varieties. Or another example, Huskers men's Huskers men's basketball team has a guard named Sam Hoiberg. He's also wants to be in broadcasting when he's done. So he's been on the radio call for the women games. So Saturday against Indiana, he had 5 points, 5 assists. On Sunday, he's calling the women's game. So I posted the video of him calling the game, and then all like my caption was like Saturday, helped the Huskers improve to 16-0, scoring 5 points, 5 assists. Sunday, back at it, calling the women's game, balls life. Like that video is over 100,000 views on social media, just on Instagram alone. Why? Because people love that. They see it. And then again, that's a vector for when I post my post-game recap, my news reports, NTV News, whatever they're doing, or people are going to see that because we're using socials to grow the reach of what we can provide.
Sounds like a great future feature story as well. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
that if you end up doing it. But what you can control is what you post. What you can't control is how people react to it. What kind of challenges have you faced, maybe having to make some editorial decisions based on feedback you've gotten from responses of your posts?
Yeah. So one situation, volleyball players, I won't say their names, but they were doing pancakes in pregame. Pancakes when you have the ground, you have your hand and the ball, so it like bounces up and down without hitting the ground. And one of the players started crawling on the ground doing it. Very innocent, no malicious intent. However, social media took it as a very sexualized way for an 18 to 22-year-old girl doing what she was doing and how they took it. I never meant for it to go that way at all. But that video blew up on social media across all socials with 15 million views. And a lot of it was because the algorithm picked up the video because people were using sexualized comments based off of what the girl was doing. Terrible, absolutely terrible. And it really made me feel ill to my core because like it was a very simple video of talking about them pancaking and people taking it the wrong way. So the question becomes, do I take the video down? Does my news station want the video taken down? Do the players or the school want the video taken down because of how it's going about? And there's been a couple instances like that where the video was one intent, but social media and the toxicity it can create took a different intent. Then you have to decide with your integrity as a journalist, at the core of what we are, what do you do with the video? Does it get taken down? Or what are the effects if you do or don't take it down based off of potential access you may get or how people would feel?
Yeah, and it's tough, right? And there's not always a clear-cut answer of how to deal with that. But on kind of a more lighter note, you
Yeah.
had a really cool post that I know was emotional to you, where you were on the sideline covering Nebraska, and you shared a quick moment reflecting and thanking your mother on it. And I know that was a pretty viral moment too.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you to be able to share that?
So that moment goes back to what I mentioned earlier in this conversation. It was after Scott Hansen sent me the text saying, like, hey, enjoy this moment at Arrowhead Stadium. I was gonna do it anyways, but I'm on Nebraska Cincinnati in Arrowhead Stadium. It's the first major college football game I'm covering, and 80,000 people in the stands. I'm one of the so called 100 people, 100 couple hundred people on the field as the game starts, and I didn't let the emotions hit me. I started crying because of all the effort and work I put in to get to this moment. So I took a moment to embrace it and really just enjoy it. Put that video, like 10-second video on social media, me crying and saying like, "Thank you, mom, I made it. Like, appreciate the support." And that video got multiple million views across all socials. And I had parents reaching out to me saying, "I don't know who you are, but I hope my son can achieve the dreams that they get. I don't know who you are, but I'm now a fan of yours because I love what your mission is. I don't know who you are. I wish you the best of luck." So people will get recognize the genuineness of the moment and just who I am as an individual. And that was really cool to see that people, family, friends close to me, the people I've never met before around the world, um, were appreciative of like me just letting my raw emotion show. I think that's something maybe we're missing in this role a little bit. Is just that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I know your intention wasn't having it go viral necessarily. It was just important to you, but humanity is something that people gravitate toward. You brought up a current topic earlier about a reporter who essentially, instead of asking a question, consoled Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen and basically gave him support during a press conference. And that's created a whole different conversation. We don't need to get into that
Yeah.
now, but it went viral too because it was a real human moment. And I think your humanity brings another element of greatness to your arsenal that's really going to help you. Not only has it already, but it's going to help you down the road.
Yeah. Can I have one more thing?
Absolutely.
And the other thing that goes with it as well is like when I get to travel with the team, which isn't a lot, you know, we're in local news if you're working local news. So that means like your media area is only, say for me, it's like 200 miles around Lincoln. It may be a bit bigger, but like if someone's a Nebraska Cornhusker football fan, volleyball fan, they're not going to get my daily reports at all. Or if they're not here, they're not going to be able to see what it's like to be in the Vandy Center, which is like the Yankee Stadium of college volleyball. It's that type of atmosphere. So by just posting a simple video of like the players running out or like starting lineups or like, hey, the fans are decked out today in red and white for this unique jersey opportunity. Like it makes people around the world who are Nebraska volleyball fans or sports fans in general feel like they're there. And they're going to then gravitate towards you and your socials because they want to be able to have that experience. So I got to go to LA to cover the volleyball team when they were out there playing USC, UCLA. And I had people from, I'm not even exaggerating, Canada, throughout the US, and South America who unprompted coming up to me. It's like, hey, are you Randy Silver? I'm like, yeah. They're like, we follow you on XYZ social. Mainly it was YouTube, which is cool. So hearing that stuff helps me understand where people see stuff. But they're like, we follow you on XYZ social. We can't get tickets to Lincoln. Like it's everything is always sold out to go to a football game, a volleyball game. And because of you and you're doing an amazing job with your post game reports or what you post throughout the game on the socials, it allows us to feel like we're there. And one day I hope to get to Devaney, but because of you, I just want to say thank you. My family enjoys your content. And that to me is the biggest reward I can give for anything I do.
Love it. What a way to be connected to the community and the world. Final big question. What are your future dreams within this business?
That's a great question. I don't know. I have a 2-year contract here, so I'm locked in until May 2027. So I'm really focused on now of just being super successful. We're halfway through winter season, so I've got one full fall of fall sports, half through winter, and now I'll get to start with spring with baseball, softball, what comes on. I do ultimately want to get to a network level. I want to be able to have the opportunities to cover a World Cup, which knock on wood, maybe I can get this summer, cover Olympics. I want to be able to potentially like tell those stories. I also really do think because of my go-getterness, what I can just do on my own, I think there's an independent route I can go. I'm not sure yet where that goes or how I can get there or what that is, but I have high ambitions and I know within my work ethic, I can make them happen.
That's great. And keep going after it. And I like your living for the present too, in addition. All right. We like to finish with what we call a dream sequence, three kind of quick hitting questions and your quick answers. Want to do it?
Yes, sir.
All right. I see Steph Curry and Draymond Green behind you. Not sure if they'll make it, but Dream Warriors starting five.
Steph, Clay, Dre, Iggy, and Baron Davis.
Yeah, I did not expect Elton Lister to make that list, but I didn't know if you got one kind of more old school with Barron. I didn't know if we get Chris Mullin or Tim Hardaway or any of those guys.
Because of the dunk. That dunk is legendary.
That's good. That's a good list. I mean, I wouldn't want to go up against that team. Okay, you mentioned being on the road once in a while. Dream work road trip.
I think going to a foreign country and covering a sport would be really, really cool. And getting to be able to then tell the stories of that culture and bring it back to your audience at home.
Well, it's great. Maybe we'll send you to the Olympics. Get your station on that.
Not gonna
Finally, we talk about like the Masters does like their jacket winners ceremony. They have a dinner and all that. For you, a dream jacket winner meetup.
So who would I want to?
It's people who have won the Mark Mativier jacket. You're going to do something. What is the activity?
I would say go to a final of some sporting event, whether it's a Super Bowl, college football, playoff, NBA finals. All of us get together in that city, and it has to be. If it's like a 7-game series, it has to be game 7. If it's a standalone game, it has to be that standalone game, and just make a weekend out of it would be really cool.
I'm sure Mark Mativier will be happy to buy you all Super Bowl tickets. So we'll see not too far up the road in California in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Who has the jacket now, by the way?
The jacket is Ben Weiss, so he's
Awesome.
getting ready to graduate. So he'll be handing that out next month, actually. So you're welcome to fly in if you'd like to. Final question. What advice do you have for young broadcasters who want to work in the business?
The work you put in, the effort you put in is the work and effort you'll get out. It can be a very lonely road. Be prepared to make sacrifices, but at the end of the day, if it's what your heart desires, the results will come if you put the work in.
Couldn't say it any better. Well, Randy, we probably could have gone 4 more hours with everything that you have done, but I greatly appreciate your time. Love the setup you have at your place and lots of heartfelt advice from Randy that you can all learn from. He's living his dream. All of you, keep it living yours too.
Bye, everybody.